This is a really short introduction to diagonal cutting or cross cutting. A topic which is quite interesting, but somebody asked that what is it exactly, and I couldn't find any video explaining it, so I decided to make one. So cross cutting means that you are cutting typically along this kind of diagonal axis, but the rules are not so strict. You can also cut like pretty much horizontal. So we are going to go through the basic exercises, and these are really good for you to practice with your sword. So we are not using shield here at all. That can be added, but this is not the topic for today. So we start with downward diagonal cutting, and it looks like this. I'm gonna keep it slow, you can see what is going. So we cut down here, like in 45-degree angle, and then come back from the other side. So it goes like this. You can repeat it forever. I'm using the weight shifting here. So I'm kind of pulling the sword with my body. So if you now watch carefully, you can see that both my hand and the tip of the sword, they are making this kind of infinity sign or figure 8 lying sideways. So this is the first cutting pattern. So learn this first. Okay. So once you're okay with that, the next one will be upward diagonal. So unsurprisingly, it goes like this. So we cut upward in something like 45-degree angle. This can also be repeated forever. So, things to watch out for: don't open your arm too much. This is maybe too much. So it's better to keep the elbow of your sword arm closer to your body. And the other thing is, when you go here, don't overextend. So it's quite enough that your elbow stays here. So you can use your other hand to stop your elbow movement here. So to keep it tidy. So you won't go here. This is too much. So just here. And you should have the feeling of the sword pulling your shoulder or you pulling the sword. So you're not using a lot of arm power here at all. So everything is coming from the body weight shifting here. Okay. So third one is horizontal. And it just goes like this. So we go here and then we return. So it's from shoulder to shoulder. But the idea is the same. Body weight shifting. It doesn't look like it's a cross cut, but if I change the angle just a little bit, now you can see what's coming out. It's the cross. But this is the strict horizontal. But you can make slight angle to it if you want. And of course you can cut from slight upward angle here as well. But we can keep it horizontal to keep it simple. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, so those are the basics. The downward, the upward, and then we have the horizontal. Right, so here comes the first problem. So if we are doing downward cuts, like this, how can we change from that to the upward cutting. It's quite fundamental, this problem. So one way to do it is to start with the downward figure eight, like this. And then you insert the horizontal, and then you cut up. So now we change that. So let's do it again. So we are coming from this upward cutting, let's say here, and the next one will be horizontal, and then you change it to downward. Once again. So the trick is to insert the horizontal cut when you plan to change. You don't have to change, you can also cut like horizontal and keep doing this. But then you can also change into downward. So this is how it's done. One option. Okay, next thing. Yeah, the angle of the cuts. So when you are learning, it's maybe a good idea to use the 45-degree angle, but this is not strict. You can cut in much more shallow angle until it becomes the horizontal, right? But then it can change to the upward, and you can increase the steepness of the angle quite a bit. So you can change it also back to horizontal and then to downward, and then it can become quite steep cutting. But you can change it quite freely. So the angle of the cuts it's not set. It's just when you're practicing this, it's maybe easier to just keep it at 45-degree angle, downward 45, upward, and then horizontal. So you already have like 1, 2, 3 angles per side. That's usually quite enough for practice. Then the height of the cuts. So when you are doing this downward cutting, you can target the head level. So it means that when the tip of the weapon is in the middle of your body, that's the impact point, roughly speaking. So it can be at your head level, for example. So no matter what the angle of the cut is, so you can target the head level, right? But you can also target the leg level. So when the tip of the sword is on the center line, it's on the leg level, it's quite low. So that's also possible. And even if you're cutting the horizontal, you can cut it like this. This is like a lawnmower move. But it's just that it's the same as this horizontal. But I'm just aiming down, so it's hitting the legs. But it can hit the hips, it can hit the neck, it can hit the top of the head as well. Same thing for the upward diagonal. You can target the head. I need to be careful with the roof. The ceiling is quite low here. So once again, when the tip of the weapon is on the center line, it's at your head level. So that's like high cut. But we can also cut low. So it's like leg. And you can combine this. So if I'm coming down first at the head level, I can then cut the next one to the leg level. So it would be like high, low, high, low, high, low. Same thing for the diagonal upward cutting. I can target like a head, and then the leg, and then the head, and the leg, head, and the leg. So quite easy to mix. So I can go like head and then do the horizontal here. So with any cut angle, you can cut to any height you want. That's basic. So then next topic is about the arm movement. Let's see if I can destroy something. So the first cutting I've been using here is like big movements, so it's basically coming from the elbow, shoulder. Need to get my body parts right, so that the shoulder is moving. So you can do it like really big if you want to exaggerate that. So it's like from the shoulder. Then the next option is just the elbow. Then it gets more tight. It can still be at this height, but it's my elbow which is moving mostly. And the last one is just from the wrist. Then it looks like this or upward. So meaning that my arm is quite straight. Right? So it's up to you what you want to do. But for the purpose of the exercise, and if you have like a really heavy sword, maybe you prefer the shoulder. But just keep in mind that when you switch to elbow, you will be faster. And if you switch to the wrist, you will make smaller cuts, but you will make it faster. So it's like with the blade work, not so much with sticks. So you have to find your thing, what you want to use, and you can actually mix and match these shoulder, elbow, wrist, depending on what you want to do. So it's not a set rule, it's something you can vary. Then about the cutting. So of course every sword has at least one sharp edge. So for every cut we make, we can cut with the forward edge. We can cut, actually slam with the flat of the blade. Or we can cut with the back edge of the blade, if it has one. If it doesn't, then you are kind of hitting with the spine of the back edge. So if you are using a real sword, you don't always have to cut with the sharp edge. You can also use the flat or the back edge. And then of course we have the point. I'll come back to that later. I'm not going to discuss the other options here. So for purpose of cutting, it's figure 8. So I'm now cutting with the front edge. So that's towards my target. But I can also cut with the flat if I want. It's kind of a slap. Not very useful maybe, but sometimes it is. So there is this German angle cut, which means that I'm cutting from here. So it could be using the flat or the front edge or the back edge, but if you slap somebody to the fingers fast with the sword, that will hurt. And if you have something else as a sword like an axe or a mace, then it starts to make more sense, because you can use the flat, you can use the front edge, or you can use the back edge to throw your cuts. And of course, the back edge in the SCA is something we call a wrap. So normally you go here, you change the strike so you hit with the back edge. Or you go horizontal here, you hit with the back edge. Or you go downward diagonal and you change it to the back edge. But you can also do it from the other side. So you can strike from here, change it to the back edge. You can strike horizontal here with the back edge. And then you can even do this. So cut from your left shoulder, change it to the back edge. You can hit here. This is quite a difficult strike, but it can be done. So just some options. Usually we prefer the front edge, but it's what you want to do. Okay, then the point. So I'm I'm still using this as an example, the figure 8. So any cut you make can be turned into a thrust. So this is the basic, the downward diagonal, but if I just change it to the point, this comes like descending thrust from here. So if I then make this cut, it can be also put into thrust by changing here. Then you come into like this, or you can come here. This is a thrust, you can come here. This is a thrust. This is of course a little bit more difficult, but this would be the thrusts. These are the cuts, and now I change it to a thrust. So it's thrust here, cut here, thrust here, cut here, thrust here. So this is still the figure 8, but now I'm cutting here, I'm thrusting here, cutting here, thrusting here. I change it like it's like a thrust, cut, thrust, cut, thrust, cut. And same thing, I can like do a rising cut from here, sorry, rising thrust from here, cut, rising thrust, cut, rising thrust, cut. So I think you got the idea. So every cut can be turned into a thrust. So you have multiple options for the thrusting. So the basics are still like from this side or this side. But then you can go here, you can go here. So cuts and thrusts are not that different. But today we concentrate on the cutting. Right, so what did we have? Let's get back to the basics. So we have this downward figure 8, right? Then we have the upward figure 8, and then we have the horizontal. So now, as an exercise, how to combine this, there are two ways you can think about it. But you can split this down a little bit to make it more useful for you to maybe even apply to your sparring. So we can do first like this downward diagonal. We switch it to horizontal, and then we do the downward diagonal again. So it's like, you can repeat this, so there are like 2 cuts, right? So there are like 3 more of this coming. Then we can start here from the left shoulder. So it's like first like downward cut. We switch that to horizontal, then it's downward again. So this. Right. And then we have the upward cut from your left side, so we can do that and turn it into horizontal. And we have the fourth one is like from the right side, upward diagonal to horizontal, back to upward. So it looks like this. So now what's the application here? It's like combination cutting. So you can do this through the first one, which would be like downward and horizontal. So you can cut like to the head, and then you can switch horizontal to the leg, and then you come back to the head again. So it's this kind of movement. So you can change the level of the cuts. They don't have to be the same. You can change it. Or you can start off with the diagonal to the leg, and then take it from there. Take it from there to the head, for example, like this. So you cut low, but then you come to the head, and then you cut low. So you can understand if you want to use this as a feint. So you cut to the head, but that's the feint. And then you will change to the horizontal, which is the actual cut. And then you're back here again. Works from the other way as well, so you can cut here. This is horizontal, diagonal, horizontal. So this is high, this is low. So high, low, high, low, high. Okay, same thing here. You can cut high and then go low, so high, low, or low, high, low, high, low. I think you get the idea. So it's still the same. It's like the diagonal combined with horizontal. Diagonal, horizontal, diagonal, horizontal, diagonal. And it's also this basic, just two downwards. You can of course cut the first one high. When you have done that, you can cut the next one low. So it's like high, low, high, low. Or the first one can be low, and the next one can be high. So it's like low, high, low, high, low, high. So you can use the first strike as a feint if you want, or a real attack, but there are like other uses as well. I'll talk about those later. Okay, so the next thing is round cuts. Round cuts, downward round cuts. So we have this figure 8, we have the horizontal, and then we have the upward. So these were the basic movements. Now we are going to add one more basic movement, something called round cut. So it means that looks like this. So we start from right hand side, we go here, we end up in the right hand side. It's like, it's just starts, makes a round move, and then comes back to the same side. Can be done from your left shoulder also. It looks like this. So it just is kind of a round cut. And from the front. So the difference to the previous ones, so the previous ones always cross the center line, right? So they always cross the center line. This one kind of crosses, but it comes back. So the previous ones, they end up on the different side. So now we are starting from one side and we are coming back to the same side. Okay, and there is an option here. You can do this also at a different angle. So you can be quite horizontal if you want. Sorry, vertical, but also horizontal here. Diagonal, well, we'll stick to diagonal for now. But the thing is here in the wrist, so I'm hitting now here. But if I put my wrist, keep it like here, I can do this kind of cut. So it's hitting to your left side. If I change the wrist position, now it hits to your right side. So the impact location is different. Now it's here. But if I change the wrist angle, it's here. This goes back. These are very historical, by the way. This can be found in the, I think, in the Zulu shield. I think also with Tuareg. So if you have a shield here, the round cuts are something you definitely want to learn, because they don't mess up with your shield at all. You can do them easily. Okay, but the same thing was from the left hand side. So this is more difficult to do if you have a large shield, so maybe not so useful, but for a single sword, for the exercise point of view, this is the round cut. The same thing, I can hit here, but just by, so it's this, but just by changing the wrist position, I can change the impact location side. And how do you combine this then? You will combine it to this downward figure 8. So now I'm just doing the figure 8 here. And now I'll insert the round cut. So, ta-da! It goes here. So you can double it. So now I'm adding it to the other side. So you can repeat that quite a few times. But the basic use is this. So you want to cut first and then insert the round cut over there. The other side is like and as usual, you can use the first track here as a feint. So somebody tries to block this or something, you just keep it short and then you add the round cut. So the first one is like a feint and you hit with the second. So you go below and then you hit from there. So it's like feint and then the actual cut comes. So that kind of thing. And the round cuts can be also done in this way, so it's upward round cut. But the idea is the same thing, that you will start from one side and finish on the same side. So it works here as well. That kind of stuff. So depends on what you want, and of course there is a horizontal round cut as well. So I can't really do those, but the idea is the same. So it's like this. So it goes like bang, bang. And this side it's something like this maybe. So that's one extra type of cut thing you can insert. Okay, so let's recap. We have downward figure 8, upward figure 8, horizontal figure 8, and let's say we have the downward round cut from both sides. This is already quite good because you can now do lots of things already with just these few cuts for practice. Then it's related to the height change maybe, but we need to talk about the size of the circle the sword tip is making. So we were discussing the shoulder, elbow and wrist options, but we have something similar for the sword tip as well. So when we are cutting here, we can do this like kind of a big infinity sign or figure 8, or we can make it quite small, just in the middle. This might not be relevant if you are doing with stick fighting, because your stick is not very sharp, so it's difficult to do any damage using these small cuts, but with the sharp sword, that's certainly an option. But what I want to say here is that we can make this figure 8 asymmetric. So one side can be a lot larger than the other side. So then it looks like this. So we have the original big figure 8, it's like this. But now I make this side smaller, so it's, see? So this is big, this is now very small. So it's big, very small, big, very small, big, very small. The other way around it works the same, very small here, big, big one, small, big, small, big, small. Okay? So this is something called ribbon cutting. So you have this motion where sword is doing something like this. So we go here and it comes back here. So going here, comes back here. So this is sideways. And it's useful when you want to, for example, first cut to the head. So you get that, then you go down here, you make a small circle here, you cut to the leg, then you come back to the head. So you make only a small circle. The initial option would be cut to head, come back to the shoulder, so make a big circle and then cut to the leg. But you can like come here, make a small circle here and then come back to the head. So it's like this. Works for the other way around, like this. So when you're practicing this, keep it really loose. And the idea is that you are not using your hand or arm, it's like wet noodle basically. So everything is coming from your weight shifting or body movement. So you have to time your body movement correctly with your sword. So these are like small circles on both sides. So what about circles up here and up down, so the ribbon cutting? Then it looks like this. So I'm coming down here and I'm making this small turn here and coming here. So it's like right. So this is going here and then I can come up with the front edge of the blade, or I can come up with the back edge of the blade, or I can actually convert this into a thrust. Same here, front edge of the blade, down, front edge up, front edge down, back edge up, or point. So this is ribbon cutting. So now we are, so if we continue this is like a big circle here, then small circle down, big one here, small down, big one here, small down. The other way it works the same, so it's like big circle here, small down, big circle here, small down, okay? So we have this side, and then low. Then we have also high ribbon. So high ribbon is maybe more easier than this one. So with the high ribbon, you basically start upward cut, you make a small circle here and then you come down. So it's going up and then going down. So big circle is now here, down. We come up, small one here. One exercise to make you feel it is just like do this, you go up, small circle here, you go down. You go up, small here, you go down. It's like you can also repeat this if you want. So big circle here and small here. So it's exactly as the figure 8, but now it's standing. You can make a small one here, big one down. They can be also of equal size if you want to, or you can, this is the figure 8, but it's now standing. So previously we did it like the figure 8 was lying down, but now it's standing. So you can trace your sword here. So you make the top very small, the bottom very big, or you can make the bottom very small and the top very big. But that's already getting quite complex. Just remember this, that it's like a ribbon cutting. So you come down, you come up, or you go here, you come here, you go here, come here, come here, come here. And it's really nice what you can do with it. So simple example is you cut to the head, for example, this rising cut, you come back here. So this is the big cut, and there's just a small one here. It's big cut and just a small one here. The other way around, you cut from here and then take a small one just over there. So my hand is actually, so I'm changing from the shoulder movement into the wrist movement, then I'm coming back to the shoulder movement. It's one application. But it's like if you would be feinting here and then the actual cut comes here. So it's the figure 8, this is the large version. And this is with the second using the small circle here. So the large one is the feint and the small one is the actual cut. Okay, so to summarize, you have this figure 8 type of movement. This is where the figure 8 is, it's like 2 circles, it's lying down here, but you can also have it standing like the number 8. And then you can change the sizes of these end arcs or circles, how do you want to call them. They can be quite big, they can be quite small, or one of them can be big and the other one can be small. So one big, the other small. So big, small. But it's maybe more related to the actual blade work. Okay. Then there is the topic of transfer strikes related to cross-cutting. It's a little bit complicated topic, so I will show you just one example. But for all these cuts, there are transfer possibilities. What does it mean is that, let's say we are here, and from here I want to be able to make this cut. So how do I get from here so that my sword is cutting from here? So using a transfer cut. Transfer cut means I will pull my, so let's say I come here, I will pull my sword around here and straight move into this kind of a cut. After which I'm in this mode. Let's do it again. So I was doing this upward cut here. Now I do the transfer cut. I come here. So transfer cuts are super difficult to pull off, but they can be done, but I haven't practiced those to any high level. So I just give you the idea that it can be done. And the key to doing it is that the sword tip is constantly moving forward when you are cutting. But this is a transfer cut, just a transfer cut. So it looks like this. So it's not like I would be doing something like this. No, it's the tip is moving forward constantly. That's the difficulty. That's the beauty of the cut. More or less. So it's quite difficult to pull off. But for the round strike, there are also transfer cuts. I won't go into details as well. So it's possible to, if I'm here and if I want to cut this, I can do it by making a transfer. Same thing for here. So it can be done. But that would be a topic for another session. So then, final thing what we need to add. Stepping and cutting. So if you want to turn into this any kind of exercise, then you need to know how this will be combined. I will show you one way to do it, and this is also historical. I think it's mentioned in one Spanish manual for military sword use, which is very rare. Actually, it's from the early 17th century, and it only uses cutting combined with stepping. But what they do is, I'll explain how it looks like and then why it's not like that. So we are using, let's say, 2 steps. You can use 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, but let's use 2 steps. So you will step and cut at the same time, and then you will step and cut at the same time. So it's this. And the foot, which is forward, Actually, the sword is always on the same side as your forward leg. So your weight is also a little bit forward, but not much, but it's more like here. So this is for stability. And then you continue. So the sword and my front foot is on the same side. So 2 cuts forward and then I go 2 cuts back. And this is just using the downward diagonal. So it's super simple. You can park your sword on your shoulder or anywhere on the right hand side, it doesn't matter. But generally, if you plan to cut down next, your sword is your high, chambered high. Okay, so we have this movement. 2 steps forward, 1, 2, 2 steps back, 1, 2, 2 steps forward, 1, 2, 2 steps back, 1, 2. But you can also start with the other leg leading, so your sword is on your left shoulder. So in that case, we will be stepping here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can do the same with the rising cuts, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. So why is this done like that? So according to the manual, the first cut you will make, there's an assumption that your opponent is pointing something at you. It might be his sword, he might be actually striking you. He might be pointing a spear at you or something else. So your first strike will be to hit that thing, to clear it out of the way. So you kind of cut to the other opponent's weapon. So if he's coming at you, you cut at the same time to get it out. So I'm using big movements now. And with your next cut, you cut your opponent. Then you're here. So what happens next is, if you are fighting as in the Spanish way, then you're going to retreat, step back, because if you hit the guy, you did your job. If you didn't hit the guy, it's very likely that he will attack you next, or somebody close to him will attack you next. So the next one is just, you will be just using these cuts as parries. So you parry that, you parry that. I won't go into detail how you parry by cutting, but the basic is that if somebody cuts you, you make the same cut. That's how you block it. But there are a few other ways, but the movements are the same. So if somebody is cutting me from this side, I can cut back that side. So that stops it. If it comes low, I will cut low. I'm back here. So I do like a low cut, high cut. Or cut low, horizontal. I can do like cut high, horizontal. Or I can do like low, low. And the second one would be my attack. And then I can like parry low, parry low. If the attack is coming from there, my sword here, it becomes a little bit more tricky. How do I cut there? But the basic idea is still the same. I will cut. I can also do the round cut if I want. If it comes really from that side, I cut here. Then I have to turn maybe also. But for the simple application, let's say somebody is pointing at me, so I will cut first. That's a deflection. Cut my opponent. Then I block. I'm back where I started. Using the other starting position. So I go into attack, I first cut and clear the weapon, then I hit the guy, and then I just defend. So that's the application in a nutshell, if you don't have a shield. Or even if you have a shield, then it becomes more like a double weapon use, which is also described in that manual, but I won't go into there. So, Maybe this was quite longish introduction to the subject, but I think the diagonal cutting or cross cutting, including all these variants, I think this is quite underestimated way of practicing, but it's quite fundamental because the sword use is based on that. So if for any reason you cut is stopped here, you can kind of imaginary think that you will continue here, but because it's stopped, you only make this small movement here and then you continue with the cut. So it's like bang, small circle, bang, small circle, bang, small circle, bang, 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 bang. So it's possible to, by manipulating the figure eight sizes, it's possible to clear yourself out from almost every situation in a quite efficient way. And the Spanish manual also says that this is the basis of using a gauntlet as a parrying device or a shield. And it makes a lot of sense. These very big movements, when you get more skill, they become smaller and smaller. But the basic idea behind everything, it's still the same. It's this figure eight horizontal transitions. It's still there, and because everything is going like on an arc, you lose very little momentum when you change from one position to another, instead of doing this kind of boxing style of movements. But these are more like flowing, and you can get like lots of power, and you will get really fast with this. It's also super confusing, and you can start to think about all kinds of feints what you can pull off with this. So I think it's crazy. We should practice this more. Just my opinion, of course. Okay, I hope this was interesting. Sorry about the surroundings. Maybe I do another one sometime using proper equipment, but hope this is enough to get you started. So any questions, just ask them somewhere below and I'll try to find it and answer. Thank you.